reports were that Lamar Jackson last August turned down $131 million guaranteed on a contract. He has agreed to a 5-year extension. Reports are the deal is signed with Baltimore. And as we begin the final hour, the details are beginning to come out through reports. Josina Anderson says that it's a 5-year contract worth up to $260 million. That is roughly $5 or $6 million more in total contract value than what Jalen Hurts received, what was it, the beginning of last week.
Yep.
What's important, though, is Jalen Hurts, with the non-injury guarantee, is guaranteed somewhere around $110 million of that money. Lamar Jackson, according to Josina Anderson, is getting $185 million guaranteed of this $260 million 5-year contract extension with Baltimore. So if you buy in that he turned down 131 last August, a year later, he is going to sign for a total guarantee of 185 of up to $260 million. It's not the fully guaranteed deal that was being reported that he wanted from the jump, but a month after saying he wanted to be traded, Baltimore makes him the new highest paid player.
And isn't this what was reported that he was offered in guaranteed money before? Wasn't it around the 185 mark?
No, it was the first offer, the last offer that they say they gave him. It went up to $200 million in the 5th year, but they could get out of that prior to the 5th year, just like any NFL contract where you can cut a player.
And I'm just concerned with the guaranteed part of it.
Me too.
How much was the guaranteed portion of the last offer?
The last guaranteed money I've seen was 131.
That was a year ago.
And that was in August.
Okay.
And so now he's the highest paid player in average annual value. But the important part is it's a 5-year contract where at least he gets $185 million. Now, in total contract value, what he's getting is not even comparable to what Patrick Mahomes received a couple of years back on that big 10-year, $500 million deal. But he now gets $1 million more than Jalen Hurts on the upcoming value of the contract. He gets $2 million more than Aaron Rodgers, but I'm going to tie in Aaron Rodgers here in just a moment with what they're doing in New York. And then there's Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray still up there. Chad, this is a great day. Not just for Lamar Jackson to the Baltimore Ravens, but Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and, oh, by the way, Patrick Mahomes. Because he knows after he slips down into like the 7, 8, 9 category of the average annual value, Kansas City is going to take care of him. And he knows that because the general manager has already said that. They're going to wait until this round of contract extensions are complete, and then they're going to make him the highest paid player again.
What's going to be fascinating is to see what these teams, where they slot those players that are remaining on this list. Example, is Justin Herbert ahead of Jalen Hurts or below Jalen Hurts? He's going to argue, I'm ahead of Jalen Hurts, I deserve more money.
Right.
I could easily make the argument, no, you need to go slightly underneath that number. If we're setting the bar, so here was the Jalen Hurts bar, and now Lamar Jackson goes over that bar. I'm fine with that, by the way, that Lamar Jackson goes over Jalen Hurts. I would argue that Justin Herbert should go below Jalen Hurts. His management's not going to argue that way. That's going to be interesting to see how they slot. Now, Joe Burrow, probably ahead of these guys.
Yeah, he'll be the new highest paid.
He'll be the new
player.
highest paid,
yes.
Yeah.
While we're talking Ravens, so by this new extension, they have reduced his upcoming salary against the cap, and that should open the door for the Ravens to be in the mix for a potential trade for DeAndre Hopkins. So in the offseason, they could have, theoretically, based on by the time this weekend is up, they could have acquired DeAndre Hopkins. The Bills are also in play. The Ravens could have added Hopkins plus Odell Beckham Jr., and then they still get their franchise quarterback back under contract.
Where do you want to go if you're DeAndre Hopkins, if it's down to Buffalo and Baltimore?
I mean, personally, I would play in Buffalo because he's not the number one guy there. Hopkins becomes the number one. And look, I'm saying that based on where they are age-wise, where they are in their career, and the opportunity with a passing quarterback like we've seen with Josh Allen versus where the offense is structured, which is through the tight ends and down the middle of the field, really, with Baltimore. I would go to Buffalo. But I would also go where the team's going to pick up the contract that he's got in Arizona. That's what it comes. And now Baltimore, to the contract's point with Lamar, they have opened up this piece of their salary cap now to make that move if they want. Speaking of big money, the Jets have pushed Aaron Rodgers' $58.3 million option bonus to next year. So all that talk about the September option bonus, that has been pushed to 2024, which means he has a $47 million option bonus already for next year. He will have a $1.21 million salary this year. And as a result, next year's compensation, and this to me signals absolutely he's playing because of this number, the roster bonus numbers. Combined, Chad, 2024 for Aaron Rodgers in New York, $107 million is what he's going to get to play for the Jets with how they've pushed the money down the hill.
I thought that yesterday's press conference was very good.
Me too.
And I thought Aaron Rodgers did a really good job.
And guess who's in the building working out today with teammates in the offseason? Aaron Rodgers.
You know what else? Aaron Rodgers looks less like a guy who takes ayahuasca than he ever has in a long time. And it's remarkable because he just went on a Costa Rican tripping retreat, essentially. And he comes back and he looks like he could be a finance guy in Manhattan.
He does.
Looking at him with the haircut. I mean, he doesn't look like a guy on ayahuasca for the first time in a while, but he is, in fact, a guy on ayahuasca right now. So I like what the role he's playing here with the Jets. I thought he handled himself, all kidding aside, very well. I thought everyone involved did a good job in that press conference yesterday. And good move to not, try to take Joe Namath's number. And Joe Namath, I know, said as much, but that's the right move when you come into a new franchise.
Namath, Broadway Joe gave him the blessing to wear 12.
And then he also said, but he did the right thing by paying honor to Joe Namath with the Jets.
Chad, tonight, NFL draft. The NFL creates this drama and mystery, and they sell hope better than any league in an offseason to their fan base. You've got the mystery, the drama, the anticipation, uncertainty, pick by pick. It's a perfect script for sports fans if you're wanting to go to a good game. Like if you leave and you have all of those elements, it made for a great Sunday afternoon in the NFL. What the NFL has done, though, is they have bottled this atmosphere and they've put it into, especially the first round, but over a 3-day weekend now that they take their carnival on the road. Tonight's in Kansas City. 10 million viewers, at least, will tune in with ABC and ESPN plus NFL Network. And they'll listen to Roger Goodell, pick by pick, rattle these guys off. 17 of them of the 31 will be present in KC. And 300,000 fans in Kansas City over the course of the 3 days are expected to go see this in person. Meanwhile, you have ESPN and ABC devoting 35 hours of live programming of the event. You have 55 cameras, 8 production trucks, over 600 edited video packages, and tonight they'll sell ads that are worth up to $16 million for a random Thursday in April where the football isn't even present on the screen for the sport in which they play. It's remarkable what they've done and how they build this hype and drama. And to be honest, they've done it because the teams play ball with them on this. Carolina hasn't announced exactly who they're taking. They haven't announced, we've agreed to terms. Technically, they could agree to terms have the contract ready to go for Bryce Young. We've seen that in the past. It goes to the highest bidder if you want to try to negotiate that. You don't do that anymore. You create the anticipation and drama of that. Houston's helping out. But every team in what may or may not be done tonight. Plus, how long ago was it, Chet? 5-6 years ago on social media? Schefter, Rappaport, and others.
Tipping picks.
That doesn't happen anymore. ESPN frowns on that now. They want the live coverage to be the first coverage, even though what is quote-unquote live is really on delay by 30 or 40 seconds. And you can prove that by the others that are in the draft room that are tipping picks on social media versus when it actually gets announced. All of that leads into the numbers. The NBA draft can pull around 3 million viewers. And tonight, in a draft that's not really hyped up all that much compared to what we've seen in years past, I know the quarterback drama is there, but outside of the 5 quarterbacks we've been discussing, there's not a lot of debate on the players in the first round pool. and it's still going to pull triple the number of an NBA draft on the same network that will try to hype it the same way.
It's a remarkable event because it is the handshake between two of the biggest sporting entities in our country, NFL and college football.
Yeah.
It's why I get hyped up for it every single year. The production value that you just referenced, Hutton, it blows me away all the time, especially when you get to Saturday of the draft and you're getting deeper in the rounds and you're going to find guys with film at Tarleton State, as an example, and North Carolina A&T, and they've got footage of everyone. They've got stories about everyone on the broadcast. It amazes me every single year, and I love it more and more simply because it's my two favorite sports, the NFL and college football. Let me go in reverse order. College football and the NFL, and it's the one night it gets together. And here's why the NFL can sell hope to everyone better than any other sports league, is because it's legitimate. Because the salary cap and the structure of the league and the draft and everything else around it makes for a league where everyone is designed to go about 500. Well, guess what that leads to? Hope. Even for teams that were bad this last year, you have hope going into next year that you might get it right. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. We pretty much know who we think is going to be good and who's going to be bad going into next year, but there's always a surprise. So that hope is legitimate in the NFL, and we get to see that hope on full display tonight. I, for one, cannot wait. It is the marriage of the two. I love it every single year, and I know the production value of it's going to be through the roof.
Chad, you had a discussion on this earlier this week, but Leah Thomas had she said that it's tough for her to wrap her mind around the fact that people can respect her as a woman while also viewing her as competing as a man against women in female athletics. Biologically, women competing against women. And I know you have another example of someone you're hoping to hear from, but we have heard from Martina Navratilova, who said, "Sorry, Leah, it is unfair, and stop telling the feminists how to be feminists." There are others that come to mind who should step up and say something.
Yeah, we got into this earlier in the week, but I really think there's another female tennis star of the past that could really help this, and that's Billie Jean King. Billie Jean King is sort of the godmother of Title IX. And every time there is an equity in women's sports issue, every time there's a women's sports issue at all, Billie Jean King oftentimes will chime in as a leader in that, and for good reason. Because of everything that she's been involved in, going back to the battle of the sexes against Bobby Riggs in Title IX. She has been an advocate for women and women in sports. She's been remarkably silent on all of this. And I don't know if it's because she thinks if she has one opinion that does not necessarily go with a party line, that she is going to be, outed as something other than a progressive or whatever Billie Jean King calls herself politically. I hope that's not the case, but I think Billie Jean King could help this cause a lot by speaking. I'm not here to tell people what to speak on. You can stand for whatever you want or nothing. That is your choice. But I will say, Martina Navratilova saying this is great. I'd love to hear Billie Jean King's thoughts on this. And maybe she agrees with Leah Thomas. I don't know. I'd like to hear from her one way or the other, though, at some point, because she is a proven leader in the world of women's sports, and I'd love to know what she thinks about all this.
More and more are speaking up on it, and more are saying what we've said from day one. It's a no-brainer. It's common sense. Men competing against men, women competing against women, biologically. It's tough to argue the other side of that. And the only argument is, oh, you're treating me as a woman here, but you can't hear.
I mean, Martina Navratilova's response, though, is perfect.
Yeah.
Because Leah Thomas says, we respect her identity. We just don't think it's fair. And then the response is, newsflash, Leah, it's not fair. That's exactly the common sense that we've been saying and a lot of others have been saying. And I do think that chorus is growing louder and stronger across media and sports media. But, again, Billie Jean King, someone of that level. We know what Megan Rapinoe thinks, who's also been a leader in women's sports of women's equality. And she is throwing her hat in the ring to take Title IX where it's going to negatively affect women, which blows my mind. So I'd love to hear from Billie Jean King on this.
Chad, ESPN has fired Major League Baseball reporter Marley Rivera because, I mean, we've seen reporters get into it in locker rooms, right?
Oh, yeah. Physically.
Just physically, yes.
Yeah.
It just so happens that she dropped a C-bomb on the wife of the vice president of communications for Major League Baseball. And this all stemmed from Rivera setting up and waiting on an interview with Aaron Judge during a Yankees and Angels series. And the other reporter was there covering
Shohei Ohtani. Yeah.
But was also jumping in and trying to interview Aaron Judge. And turns out that Rivera turned around and, well, dropped the C-bomb to the wrong reporter in this case.
Yeah, and the reporter came out and said, I apologize, no excuse, but there were extenuating circumstances, but there's still no excuse. And then ESPN's comment was, she no longer works here. Oh, okay. Well, that'll be the end of that. If you're going to throw out that word, you better make sure it's not to someone whose husband can get you fired.
Yes.
And that's
VP of communications.
That's the case here.